Hello and welcome to Financial Technology Frontiers Live. In our CEO interview series, today I am introducing you to one of the most dynamic CEOs of the banking industry in Canada, whom I have come across. And one very interesting thing he speaks is that we are a challenger bank. Okay, and some very interesting facts about this bank is after establishing as a bank in 2014, they have still come up as the seventh largest bank, and they have been really very dynamic in their approach in terms of products, in terms of services, and even in markets where there has been so much of recession, the bank has managed to have a very good line of growth. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Andrew Moor, who is the CEO of Equitable Bank. Andrew, welcome to Financial Technology Frontiers.
Thank you so much for having me, Babu. It's just a great pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Andrew, one of the most important things that I have always learned is Equitable Bank has positioned itself as a challenger bank.
Right.
Okay, and I really want to know how you have kept that positioning and what is your definition of a challenger bank?
Well, I think we get to kind of define the category in Canada. In fact, Canada's Challenger Bank is actually a trademark owned by Equitable Bank. As you can imagine, I borrowed that word from the kind of UK scene. You can hear my funny accent. That's where I met many of the people pioneering the Starlings and the Monzos of this world many years ago, and really trying to bring that innovative idea to the Canadian banking system. And the way I think about a challenger bank, or Canada's challenger bank at least, is trying to shake up the Canadian banking system and industry to offer innovative solutions that aren't available through other banks. So really trying to innovate, think about ways of bringing new value so that the banking industry as a whole is delivering more value to Canadian consumers and making our society prosperous. That's kind of the number one lens which we think about the challenger banking view of the world.
Interesting. When you are a new entrant into the industry compared to the banks which have been here for decades,
Right.
Automatically what happens is you have to also look into the newer immigrant population or younger population and those people who come with diverse banking needs. So how have you been working towards getting or attracting and retaining this new customer base who generally have a tendency to shift or have a lot of engagements with different banks? How do you work around with this population?
I mean, I think frankly, we appeal to this population. We are trying to bring better solutions, and certainly when you look at the names in our customer bases and so on, the databases, you would see a lot of names that would suggest that people have come up from other countries. In fact, I've got the same experience myself. I came to Canada 33 years ago as an immigrant, with all the difficulties of establishing my credit profile, figuring out who I would bank with, and I probably, unlike many Canadians that are born here and kind of go and bank where their parents banked, I was shopping around thinking about the solutions and realizing that the options between different banks actually weren't that different. And so I thought there was an opportunity to build a very distinctive banking operation that would appeal to people that have come from other places, as well as people that have kind of resident in Canada from an early age. So for example, things like our integration with Wise is a great example of how we can appeal to that community. So if you want to send money to India and hit India's real-time rails, we can do it right off our app within 30 seconds, a minute. Same thing to the UK, pretty well anywhere there's real-time rails in the world. Money can be sent virtually in real time. That's not available from the big Canadian banks. So it's a differentiator. It's not the only reason to come and bank with EQ Bank, but it's certainly something that appeals to that group of customers that you talk of. And we define our customer base. Our target customer is what we call an aspirant, i.e. somebody that's aspiring to improve their life. And of course, that's very much part of the genetics of somebody that's come halfway around the world to come and live in a country that objectively is a bit too cold in the winter, right? These are people seeking better banking solutions, thinking about in clever ways about improving their lives. And frankly, they help us build a better bank because we're listening to them, building solutions that make sense to them, taking their feedback. And so it's a very natural. And of course, a lot of our employees also fit that profile. So very sensitive to the needs. If you're coming here as a student from India and then you're going to get a job afterwards and so on, how do what does that journey look like and how do you feel about it? Quite attuned to that. We can always do better, and we always rely on the feedback of our customers to do that. But it's a very interesting. And of course, Canada's a country of high immigration, so it's good that new customers are arriving every day, or new potential customers, and so we have a big opportunity.
How do you actually make sure that this immigrant population which comes in, many of them who may not have a local credit profile,
Right.
get access to the credit products or the banking products or things easier compared to in the home country, or I don't know how you can access the credibility of theirs in the home country, or how is it that this can be provided?
Yeah, I mean, so that really in lending products, we would fit in two areas for somebody that's relatively new to Canada. One in mortgages, the other would be lending on equipment. So somebody's coming here, sets up a business. Classic business would be trucking companies, logistics businesses. So we're definitely looking beyond the bureau. So if it's a thin file bureau, which means somebody hasn't been here for very long, we're definitely interested in looking at what's that person's experience in that industry and wherever the country is they came from. Have they got the credibility that would allow us to believe they're going to be successful in that business? And frankly, take a bit of a risk on can they adapt to a new economy to do that. And the same thing in in the mortgage space as well. I mean, people don't tend to buy a house the day they arrive. I mean, typically you're going to be renting an apartment for a year or two until you've kind of found your feet. But we certainly want to be that bank that provides that first mortgage that helps people get on the route to home ownership. And one of the ways we also help with that is we were the first bank, I think, to have a first-time home savings account that you could open online. So that would be a natural product for somebody that's relatively new to Canada, starting to put their money away with view that home ownership would be sort of further down the road for them.
Interesting. And probably that is the kind of support that an immigrant would probably need from a bank to take up his banking and financial needs to the next level. Now this comes to another question, especially technology, because technology is the foundation on which today's banking runs. Now you have at least started quite late, so you will have the advantage of having some of the latest technologies at your disposal. How are you using technology as an advantage compared to the existing erstwhile banks which are already there? And what is the road ahead for engagements with fintechs? And you already spoke about Wise. So how are you using this to your advantage?
Yeah, there's quite a lot to unpack there, Babu, but I think we were the first bank in Canada to be operating a core processing on the cloud, so that it's almost an advantage to be late in that environment where the larger, more established banks have to move off old server architecture into that world. We have a deep partnership with Microsoft. In fact, I think we're one of the first banks in Canada to be using their Copilot product for artificial intelligence for our own teams and to hopefully fire up our call centers and so on. With respect to partnering with fintechs, I mean, we understand that we're a relatively small bank. I mean, we have 1,800 employees. We're not tiny anymore, but on the other hand, we can't build everything ourselves and don't want to, and we can't be experts in everything. So I already mentioned partnering with Wise, but we partner with Nesto in the mortgage origination. We with a group, actually large numbers of mortgage originators, we're hooked in with technology. There's all kinds of applications where we use part of a fintech's, or whether it's Jumio or Trulio in onboarding. We're pretty much very engaged in finding fintech solutions to give our customers a better solution, and certainly don't have an attitude of everything invented here. We like to partner with other people who've got deep domain expertise in the businesses that they're running.
Which are those interesting technology areas or partnerships in fintech which you think is more inspiring now, or you would like to get into in the near future, where you see a lot of scope for banks like yours who are challenger banks?
Well, certainly one of the areas that we are focused on for the next little while is small businesses. So again, it links to the same community, frankly, we were talking about earlier. That entrepreneur, many times, has come from somewhere else with the dream of setting up a business, building a successful family life fueled by that business. So, and we generally have this thesis that the big banks, and this is true around the world, it's not a particular criticism of the Canadian banking system, big banks typically find it hard to really bank small businesses well. And so we've got some good ideas, we think, in that area to bring innovation using technology for that community. And so many people now are, with digital opportunity. They're able to build new kinds of business models where they're constantly on the move, trying to run their business off their phone kind of thing. And certainly the bank needs to be along for the ride in that journey. And so we aspire to do that. And we've got some great ideas, I think, in that area.
Super. When it comes to banking population or the companies which are trying to do business with you, one of the most important thing is the trust with the customer, and especially the trust grows when the bank is old or bank has huge buildings kind of stuff. So and we have been observing this across the population. So how you as a bank, which is a incumbent bank, a challenger bank, a very innovative bank, been building this trust from both perspectives, from the business side, from the technology side?
Yeah, so I mean, certainly on the technology side, we're very, I think, very advanced on things like cybersecurity. We've moved to a zero trust type framework. I believe that we're as buttoned down and as controlled and everything. Frankly, our partnership with Microsoft, we like to say we stand on the shoulders of giants in terms of using the tools within Azure to provide the protections we're looking for. In terms of building trust with the consumer, it is a bit of a challenge. As much as I see bank branches as completely irrelevant to most of my banking needs, it does provide that sense of stability that there's a place to go in and complain and so on. Strangely, where we found that we've been able to build the most credibility is actually advertising on traditional television. So if you're watching this outside of Canada, when the hockey games turn on, a lot of Canadians turn their eyes to watching hockey and the ice hockey, for those of you that don't know quite what hockey might be. And so when when the puck is on the ice and we run an ad, that we get a lot of traction and sort of credibility by being on the mainstream TV networks. We obviously do a lot with digital advertising to kind of try and hit individual value propositions, but in terms of that kind of brand building, this is a real bank, that is a useful way of building that credibility. Every time, we only operate out of offices, we have no branches, but every time we are in an office building, we try to make sure there's an EQ Bank sign on top of the building to give people the sense there's something stable there. And then on our websites, we'll have images of the buildings with our logos on top of it to give that credibility. And then, of course, we're constantly on BNN, other areas. We are the top performing bank on the stock exchange in North America over the last decade. So, we have built good traction with the financial community for that success. And of course, that trust, you only get there by being super cautious, being a prudent banker, as well as looking for ways to bring value. So, it's a constant message of communication. I think we probably have to run harder than the people running the big banks, frankly, in some ways. But then we have huge opportunity ahead of us, which probably they don't have, right? So.
And you have done one interesting strategy of acquiring credit unions, for example, Concentra Bank and a couple of others. And also, I have seen participation of EQ Bank in the World Credit Union event that happened sometime back in Vancouver. So I think you have a strong business strategy from the credit union partnerships perspective as well, right?
Yeah, we do. We've never bought a credit union, to be clear. We bought a bank, Concentra Bank, owned by the credit union system in strong partnership with credit unions. We love the values of credit unions, I think, more than anything else. Their care for their customers, they would call members. Their members, really resonates through that system. And we do believe that, there's lots of opportunities we're a relatively small bank, even though we're the 7th largest in the country. The credit unions are, by definition, smaller institutions, typically constrained to operating each individual province where they're operating. So we kind of need to gang together on some of these technical solutions that we're building. If we can spread the cost over a number of institutions rather than just bearing the burden ourselves, we think there's a lot of opportunity, and we love the approach that the credit unions bring in terms of how they think about life.
Super. And one most important asset any organization has is the people.
Yep.
And you have been working very closely. I remember you speaking at the Canadian Lending Association about how you have been creating an inclusive kind of atmosphere and putting the right kind of age group in place for the bank and things like that. So how have you been looking at empowering the women or building in more inclusion into the entire organization and taking it to the next level?
I mean, it's a journey we're always on, of course. I'm not saying we've solved it, but we're very concerned that decisions are made with people around the table that look different, have different experience, and can therefore, take good ideas and bring them out in a way that's only possible to really understand unless you've got that diversity of view. So we're very deliberate about who we're recruiting, if you look at the executive team, You see women well represented. You see people with different perspectives sitting on around the table with me that can then help. And then their teams themselves have got a lot of diversity, and we, I think perhaps compared to some, and I think frankly the whole industry is doing quite well on this over time. But when we're thinking about recruiting, we certainly look at the qualifications of people in the countries they've come from, just as valid as those in Canada, for example. So that helps us have a broader net. I think in the past we've done well by recruiting people whose qualifications may be hard to earn in their home countries but haven't yet been recognized in Canada. So somebody that's not yet a qualified accountant in Canada but can account, and they can come and work in our functions doing the work. They may not yet be so employable in other areas. So give people their first job and their first break in Canada, I think is also just some loyalty with some.
Super. And when it comes to, you have been a connoisseur of open banking.
Yep.
And you have propagated it quite often. I have listened to quite a lot of your sessions where you have been talking about open banking in a big way. What are those kind of technology trends you see coming into the banking sector, which is going to take the industry to the level next, especially from a challenger bank perspective?
I think there's sort of three big shifts that haven't moved fast enough from my perspective, but the digital identity, so we can move around more cleanly around the systems, faster payments and real-time payments, and open banking, as you say, are going to change the landscape pretty dramatically over the next 10 years. And frankly, I was talking about that 5 years ago. It seems like we haven't moved very far in the last 5 years. But having said that, the budget or the full economic statement, just the government declared a commitment to open banking. We're brimming with ideas about what we can do with open banking when it comes to life, when we can actually, when customers are now able to share the data they have with other financial institutions, how can we put that data together in ways that are going to improve their lives? We think it's going to be a huge opportunity. And so, we're just waiting really for the enablement of that. Just hungry to allow our customers to work with our customers with their data, the data we have on them. Put it all together in a permissions-based system. So to be clear, the customer has to give us permission to have the data, and then we would then helpfully, reduce the amount of time it takes to do banking, find better value products. There's so much opportunity once we get there. I mean, the Canadian system, the banks have been great in many ways. They've stood up under financial crisis. They're strong banks, but they are a small group of banks, and the innovation is lacking in this ecosystem, in our view. And that holds back our society. I mean, more prosperity can be delivered to our society if we can bring more innovation. If people had to spend less time banking or less time looking for good banking solutions and more time doing the things they want with their lives, it improves their lives, right? This is a very simple mindset.
Any suggestions on where do you see the next innovations in banking coming from?
I think, it's the obvious one, obviously, is artificial intelligence. Where does that go? I think, frankly, the large language models that are out there now, will take us somewhere down the road. I mean, we're using them, as I say, in a couple of areas of the bank. We already use Copilot, the Microsoft Copilot solution, to help produce documents and so on faster ourselves. And so that'll certainly, I think, change the experience. Should reduce call center queue times and make sure the answers are more relevant to you. Provide useful insights into how you nudge in where your banking should go. That's an obvious one. And so, I think that blended with the three things I previously talked about, does change the landscape pretty dramatically, frankly.
Interesting. It is very different in case of most of the CEOs to talk a lot about technology, but I think I see a lot of passion in you in speaking about technology, open banking, or any of these kind of technology trends.
Well, I think what you'll hear from us always is trying to connect the dots between the better customer experience. How does the customer benefit from these things, as opposed to, well, I mean, we'd like to take cost out of our system too. So some people see it as a cost reduction tool. I think for us, it's really fundamentally about bringing novel products to market or novel solutions, helping make banking better for everybody. And that's what gets me excited, and it can help it make the bank more efficient too, which then means, frankly, lower fees, higher interest rates for customers on the deposit side, whatever it is. So that's good.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I think I had a lot of insights from you. Thank you so much for your wonderful.
Well, thanks for interest, Babu. I'm honored to have the chance to be here.
Thank you.